Today, we're going to make this wicked cool neutral background using just magazine pages and acrylic paint. Tara Jacobson, Artsy Fartsy Life. So today we are going to make a neutral colored collage background. And so what would you use this for? You would use this to put your artwork on, to cut up to make a background, to use for a tag. There's a million things you might use this for. But we want to find neutral colored things. So let's go through this and the ones that I've picked out so far, and I'll show you how you do it. So this is kind of a neutral color. It doesn't look neutral right this second, but especially once we cut it up, you'll see that it's neutral. And this is very neutral. And I love that there's different little hints of color. These are a very bland color that are going to be good for that. This was perfect because you can see there's a little bit of movement in there, but you can't tell what it is. These girls' feet are very neutral. We're going to try to probably avoid the blue, but the rest of it will be good. These gals are neutral. And I think, nope, that was two different ads. This one is very good. And then this Ralph Lauren ad is very neutral also. And I wanted to show you how you can find these types of pictures in your magazines. Okay, I'm going to tear this out because it's kind of messing up my magazine. This guy may be okay. Let's see what we have going, and if we need to, we can use that one. I just grabbed one of my magazines from my stash. And we're just looking for neutral colors. So just nothing really colorful, nothing jumping off the page. You could probably use that. I'll probably keep that for texture somewhere. Let's see. Ooh, that's super neutral. It's not that I don't want color, it's that I don't want a ton of texture. I don't want a ton of anything to jump out. I just want it to be sort of plain. So if I was desperate, I would use that, but I have tons of magazines. I get them on eBay. I try not to pay more than $1 a magazine. If I was doing a dark one, that would be perfect. Dark background. Okay, I think I'd like one more page. You don't have to worry about having too much here. You could maybe use that. It's kind of a little contrasty. You could maybe use that. But we know we have that other page up front. Boop, boop, boop. Ooh. That could be really good, huh? Let's see. Nah, a little bright, little yellowy. You know, yellow is my favorite art color, so of course when I saw that. Oh, here's another one. There you go. It's got that same kind of ethereal. That's it. Okay. So, let's see. Do we need one more? That cat would be good. Ooh, that's good. Okay, we're going to use that. And I think that may be okay. We may have enough. Ooh, those are fun. Okay, See, I think that just with the words, I mean, if we need it, we can. If we need it, we can grab that one too. Ooh, this is kind of pretty. But we could grab this one. With Cindy Crawford. Okay. Actually, I do like that because it's more of a gray than a yellow. I tend to have lots of yellow. Okay, so now I am going to make this on the back of a piece of cardstock scrapbook paper that I will never use. So this is not my style. This is not what I would use in my scrapbooking now. I just wouldn't use it. So you have two ways you can do this. You can either choose to cut it out, right? If you want a nice clean edge, you could cut it out. So say we wanted to grab pieces that we could use. We could do this. And you're just gonna cut your paper into strips. I'm gonna get rid of that. And you could cut it like that and have nice clean edges. The other thing that you could do is you could get a steel ruler like this, and you could tear against it and have a raggedy edge, which is what I'm going to use. But then again, I want to cut this part off, right? So what I would do with this is I would cut that in half, and I would do this, because the thing we want to do is we want to get a whole bunch of pieces that are, for me, neutral, right? I want to have lots of neutral pieces. So I'm just going to rip this. I don't need any of this. Oop, we got some back here. So we want to go around the red. Okay, so we can go like this. And I'm not trying to get any specific width. I'm just trying to get a whole bunch of pieces. And I don't want that little bit of red. I don't want little pops of color for this. I want it to just be a neutral background. And I'm gonna put you guys on, okay, here's one more tip. So I was gonna do it halfway that way, but you wanna get all different lengths. So now I'm gonna come over here and get rid of that. And see how this one, I can get this far on this one. And this is gonna be a little bit fatter one, huh? But you wanna get all different lengths and all different size widths and things like that. That's what's gonna help us sell this background. So I'm not gonna talk this whole time or you'll hate to hear the sound of my voice. I'm gonna speed this up, but I'll let you watch it because I know from your feedback, you like to see what's going on. Okay, now here's the thing. It feels like we have a lot, and we probably do, and if we have too much, we can just make another paper, right? But what we're gonna do is we're gonna start kind of laying out in no particular order. Do not try to make this in order or you'll make yourself nuts, right? And then dig down in the bottom of your pile, get some of the old pictures. See, that's a little bit raggedy edge for now. So we'll just cut off that raggedy edge. That's where I yanked it out. But I like the naturalness of that. Okay, I like these girls' legs. And you get to pick what you want it to look like. I like the kind of darkness of the fish. Okay. All right, now that I see this, I think it's a little darker than... Like I was thinking it was going to be, this one was going to be a super light neutral. But I think we could do a little bit darker neutral and then do a page with like a really light neutral, right? And I'll show you a picture of that when I get done. I won't make you watch that one, but this one's a little darker. There's another piece of that stuff. So now we gotta get rid of the light stuff, but we can keep the light stuff for the other one, right? Because you never know, right? Okay. All right, now I'm gonna start gluing this down, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna get some more. And I am just, for this first round, going to use Yoo-Hoo glue stick. And you can't go wrong because we're going to cover this up at the end of the day. And the one thing you want to do is you want to stagger all of these things. So you don't want to have a line across. You also don't want to have stair steps up. So you want to make sure that you're really kind of higgledy-piggledy with this, right? Now I do want it to be lined, so I'm going to cover up that thing that didn't look so liney. Okay, there's another piece of this guy. What about that leg? That's a little bit fatter piece. That's good. We want to make sure we keep all different kinds of stuff. And I don't necessarily want it to be stripes. It can be stripe E, but I'm not trying to make stripes, because if you try to make stripes, then you have to have all your stuff the right distance, like symmetrical, things like that. And we're mostly just trying to get a really neat color back here and a really neat pattern back here. This is going to be a good big piece. All right, Max the dog just joined us. Max the dog is a very small dog. He is my mother-in-law's dog, and he is smaller than my cat. So someday I will show him off to you. Okay, I want to get rid of this little white part because we're doing a little bit darker neutral on this one. And see, it's already starting to look cool. And this is literally my favorite way to use up magazine pages that I like the look of, but I know I would never use. And those are so hard to get rid of, right? Like you're like, oh, I love the pattern in that one. But then it just doesn't, it doesn't work with what you do or your artwork. You can still use that cool pattern or still use that cool dress. And I will have another one of these where we do a colorful one, because that's totally different. That's how you pick that is a little bit different than how you pick the neutrals. And I just love doing my backgrounds this way. All right. And you don't have to use Yoo-Hoo. I have the Yoo-Hoo up here, but I also have a Elmer's glue stick from my kids' book bag. You can use whatever you want. Ooh, that one's double. Okay, so we need to get further down in our pile. Okay, so we want a piece of that here. We'll put a piece of that here. Let's get this food. Uh-oh. I'm shedding. So what we want to do, the goal, ooh, here's a good piece of that gray from Brooke. Was it Brooke? No, it was Cindy Crawford. Is we don't really want anything to be recognizable. I think that's a little too recognizable, but this is good. Now, I would not go this way ever. I tend to go up and down. You could go that way if you like to have it really hodgepodgey. And that would be your choice because it's your art, right? You get to be the boss of your art and what you think looks nice to you. Okay, we're going to put this on this edge. Oops, I booped you. Okay. Ooh, look. I bet when we started, you were like, you're never going to have enough to do all that. And now we know we have more than enough to do all this. Because what I'm really trying to do at the end of the day is in the middle, have a piece of an 8.5 by 11, which is the size of my art journal. So for me, that is the goal. For you, you might do big pieces and you might want a 12, because this is 12 by 12, because this is a scrapbook page, right? You might want a big page. And that just isn't a goal for me. Yeah, that'll fit in there perfect. Now we got to start filling in. Now it gets just the tiniest bit harder. Here we go. Oh, let's put it, see, you know what we can do? We can turn this sucker around and start gluing because there's no top or bottom, right? Oh, there's a piece of green. Oh, here's a hair. Oh, this is good. This is for my little bit darker one. Okay, let's do a piece of hair up here. I need a skinny piece. Well, that's not a skinny piece, that's a fat piece. Now I still need a skinny piece. Oh, look at this, we got this. I feel like that looks like a mistake. It's not, it's the edge of a piece of a muffin, but it would bother me in my art. Okay, let's keep going. This needs to get stuck down. Okay, so this is a big one for you guys. I like when there are wrinkles because I like lots of texture in my stuff. If you like everything to be perfect, you need to put it on perfectly. But this is the first layer of, I'm gonna have 11 billion layers in this. Nobody's ever gonna see this layer. I don't cover it up, but it's definitely not gonna be what their eye gets drawn to when we're all done. So I'm not as precious about it. I'm just trying to get stuff on the paper so that I can, ooh, look at this is a fatty. Yay, I needed a fatty right there. Okay. Okay. All right, we're going to be done here in 1 second with this. So we're just putting these couple pieces on. I need one more, guys. How about this? Will that work? That'll work. Okay, I did squeak out a second one. So this is our first neutral, and this is our second neutral. So the next thing I do is I go around, and this is the 12-inch one. So this is just the top of the scrapbook paper. And I'm just gonna cut all around the edges, and the only reason I do this, and you can, if you have a bigger work area than I do, the only reason I do this is because my craft area is pretty small, and I need to get myself some room to put my materials, things like that. So you do whatever you need to do, and don't forget, this is 12 by 12. The biggest I'm gonna do is 8.5 by 11. I'm gonna find the part of it that I like the most and use that as my journal page, and the rest of it's just gonna be for other backgrounds and things. Okay, so that's the light colored one, the light colored neutral, and this is the dark colored neutral. Okay, one of the ways I keep my scrap room, my craft room clean is by throwing away all those little pieces. I don't keep scraps of paper because I would be adrift in them. All right, now what we need to do is we need to take and put a coating on this to protect it a little bit, because these are really cheap scrapbook pages. So all I'm gonna do for this step is use a foam brush, use some Mod Podge, and cover them both with Mod Podge. And that's a matte layer. This is gonna kind of seal them. You can go against the grain, you can go with the grain. This is not a super important vital step. It can help stick some stuff down if you find that you have a lot of little goobies coming up. You could probably stick some of them down with this. Like if you go this way on that one and then this way, it would help stick it down. You'll see when you get good at doing a lot of collage, or you make a lot of these backgrounds, you'll see that you'll get good at figuring out how to kind of wiggle a little Mod Podge in there and just get that corner down. See, you wiggle that in there and then that corner will stick down. Okay, so there's that one, and this will dry clear. Mod Podge dries clear. This is matte Mod Podge, so it will dry totally clear, and matte meaning not shiny. If you use glossy Mod Podge, and I do like glossy Mod Podge for some things, not for this, because I don't want this to be an interesting layer. I just want this to be a background layer. But if you like your background layers to be glossy, you could use, see, we could go under there, flip that down. All right, and now we need to, and I have some oogs in my Mod Podge because I combined my big bottle with my little bottle. So I just grabbed the oogs out. For a good project, I would be using Liquitex matte medium, or I would be using Ranger matte medium. But for a project like this, that I'm working just a background image, Mod Podge is fabulous. And it's a little less expensive. So, all right, there we go. We just have to, oops, did I miss a spot? And if you miss a spot, it is so not the end of the world. We're not doing anything on here that requires you to get this sopping wet again. So we're not trying to waterproof it. We're just trying to give it a little tiny bit of a barrier, because if you do a lot with magazine pages are very, very fluffy. All right, there you go. Okay, I have collected some things to work on our light colored neutral, and this is all dry. So what we're gonna do is my two light things that I have, inks that I have, are actually oxides. So we're going to use those. We're going to use Perfect Pearls Mist, which is kind of a neutral. Sand Gloss Spray from Dina Wakley. White Gloss Spray from Dina Wakley. a kind of a creamy color acrylic paint, and then white dilutions. So what I want to do is I want to break the lines, right? Like I want to get some color on here. I want to get some texture on here. We may use some texture paste. In fact, let's use some texture paste. I'm just going to use a teeny bit because I want it to dry fast. So I'm using Distress Texture Paste. And now you can make a decision here. So now we're going to work on our light colored neutral background. And I have some stuff we're going to use. We're going to start with a little texture paste because I want to get some texture going here. I have some Dilutions ink spray. I have some acrylic paint in a color. 2 Dina Wakley gloss sprays. And then the only 2 really light colored inks I have are Distress Oxide, Frayed Burlap, and Fossilized Amber. So we may use a little bit of those. And let's get going. So what I want to try to do is break these lines. So I can do this a couple different ways. I can put circles over lines. So if I'm going to do one of these with circles, and I'm going to do, we have the darker one. Remember the darker neutral? I think I'm going to do the darker neutral with squares and Harlequin. So for this, you would not want to do lines and circles and checks unless you were going for something fancier. I'm going for neutral. So I'm going to just take a little bit of this texture paste and put some circles on here just to kind of break up the lines. And I'm not going to do this in any formalized way. There's just going to be some here and there. And mostly this is because I like to have different layers and textures in my backgrounds. If you like a smooth background, you definitely don't need this. And then the other thing is, if you feel like some of your areas aren't as blended in, and I'll show you this in a second. All right, so that's going to be enough for us. But see how that area was kind of dark? That might drive you nuts. So you may not want the leg. We're gonna try to make this an overall look so that we can enjoy having a neutral background to work with. And now normally I am not a cleaner, but I am not going to waste my time to go do this. So you could use a baby wipe. I have my spray cleaner, but when you use texture paste, you are going to want to get it off your stencils, because if you don't, then they won't lie flat the next time you use them. So we're going to use this one again. So I wanted to clean it off. This guy we're going to let dry a little bit. We got other places and other spaces we can work in for right this wee minute while it dries. All right, so let's do a spritz of ink spray, and this is Dilutions. You're just going to pick whichever kind of stuff you have. And now this isn't going to, if we can get this to dry, it's not going to spread out the way it normally would, because we have that layer of Mod Podge, which I'm perfectly fine with. You may not be fine with. I'm also going to try to get this sand spray out. I'm terrible at cleaning. Oh, that one came out good. Okay, I love that. So let's get that out here. And some perfect pearls. So we got some, I'm just trying to get a little bit of color around. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this with a heat gun to see if I can get it to kind of stick on there. Okay, so you can see I went in and I spread out some of the puddly bits so they would dry faster. I live in Florida, so if I don't do that, it could take 11 million years to dry. And now I'm going to, let's see, we could do this with a brush. So let's try with a brush first. We're going to do some of our, I'm going to kind of line this back up, and I'm going to put a little bit of paint on my brush. And this is acrylic paint, so it's going to be opaque. It's going to cover up what's ever underneath it, but we're kind of doing a dry brush. So it shouldn't cover it, right? I want more of a dry brush effect where I'm just getting a little bit of that color in there. There we go. And I don't want this to be perfect. I want this to be funky. I want the whole thing to be funky. So we're just gonna go in, and you'll see, depending on what we use, what medium we use through the stencil, we're gonna get different effects. So I'm gonna do all the little circles in paint, and now I want a little bit more. In paint with a paintbrush, and the other ones we're going to do, the bigger circles, we're going to do with a blending tool and the stencil. Okay? All right, that's good. Ooh, I like that. Let's go to this corner, cover a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but nice. I like that up there, kind of dark. Just going to use up the rest of this paint over here. And, oh, I don't have my acrylic paint in the jar. Okay, now you're not supposed to heat acrylic paint, so I'm not going to. We probably ought to give this a wee minute to dry. Okay, now I've got this mostly dry. Now we're going to use our oxides, which are right here. And I'm going to use a little bit of the yellow and then mostly the frayed burlap. The yellow is fossilized amber. And I'm just going to come over here, put a little bit in here. So my father-in-law, who taught me lots of what I know, tells me that you have to do things in 3s or 5s. So if you're going to do something, you have to do it in series. He was an art teacher for 35 years in the public school system of New York. So I trust him. So we did 5 of those. And now we're going to go with just the frayed burlap. And the nice thing about Distress Oxide is it is a little bit more opaque too. Distress Regular is going to be very translucent. This is going to have more pigment in it, so it's going to cover up more. I kind of want the pattern of the big circles to be the actual background. Oh, I love how that's turning out. Had I known I would love it so much, I would have done it all in frayed burlap, but that's okay. So we're going to do 2 things with this frayed burlap. We're going to do lots of circles, lots of big circles wherever I see there's a spot worth nothing. Actually, I like that red, or that yellow, excuse me. I'm going to do them where I see that there's some missing, and then I will probably do, and that's why I kind of have a plan for what I want to try, but I never make it so set in stone that I can't find something amazing as I go and add it, right? So these circles are just making me so darn happy. I love that. That looks really cool. And then we're going to come back in with these mini circles. Oops, this is a little wet. So when you're working with Distress or Distress Oxide, you do not want any moisture because it will start to wick, meaning it's going to spread and move and do all kinds of amazing things that other people like that I do not like. I like my things to be very set in stone. So this is just making darker areas. Oh, I love this. This is going to be an amazing background. So, all right, that may be, whoops, we got a little bit of light there that's popping off, but I like how that looks. I like how this looks. You know what we're going to do though real quick, because I liked how this was. We're going to do a couple of spritzes. And in the background, just some perfect pearl circles on the top. We'll do the background again. All right, that's going to give us a teeny bit of a kind of a gold glow to this. And I love this for my background. Okay, sweet. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the one that is more, gotta let this dry. And we're going to move over to this one that is still a neutral, but turned out to be darker, right? So this turned out to be way darker than the other one. And I think on this one, instead of using the sprays to start, we're going to use Distress ink, and we're going to use paint. So I'm going to go get us some paint. Okay. All right, so I got us some brown paint, 2 different colors of brown. This is just cheap acrylic paint, a little bit of gold, and some white, because you can always use white. Of course, I picked the one that isn't open. Okay, so we are going to put white paint in there. We're going to put brown paint. Shake your paint shifter. Okay, and then the gold. So, here's a bunch of different things we can do with paint. I have what's called a glazing medium. And this makes your paint translucent. So your paint is going to be solid color, right? But if you use that glazing medium, then it will be translucent. And that's what I want. Okay, so now we're going to use these ones, right? And we're going to, yep, we're gonna use this. So I'm getting some glaze. I'm getting a little bit of brown. Oh, that is what I wanted. Okay, glazing medium, brown. And you can do different levels. So you could do a lot of glazing medium one time, a little glazing medium the next time. I'm just trying to break up this, and I may put a little gold in it this time. Okay, and then I need one down here. So we're running out of room, guys. And we're gonna come back in with those inks in a wee bit. But first we want to get these checkers all over. I love that layer. Okay, let's come in here and let's do this lighter brown with some white and the glaze and see what happens. Because I don't, oh, that looks great. I don't want it to all be the same color. And the nice thing about this is you don't need anything fancy, right? I'm using a stencil. Well, I guess you need glaze. But besides glaze, you don't need anything fancy. You can use those dollar jars of paint, because this is just all going to be background. So let's go back around the way we did before and check for our parts where we have stuff missing. So let's do gold and white and glaze. I'm just kind of trying to get the checkers all over, but not perfectly, right? Sorry, I think I think you're off the screen here, but I need to get this corner. If you see any spots I missed, make sure you give a yell. And I'm just kind of mixing the paint through here. Not trying to be perfect. In fact, I'm trying not to be perfect because I want little bits of all different colors in here. Ooh, it's really showing the green. There's little bits of green, and this is pulling out the little bits of green. How exciting is that? Let's do a little bit more white over here. It's cool. Let's get a brown. Okay. All right, that's good. I like that brown, whatever happened with that. Bunch of white over here. This brown was cool. Now you can do this super carefully if that's how you like to do it, because it's your art and you get to do whatever you want. I don't, oh, that to me is gorgeous. I could probably, first off, I could do this all day long. But I could probably leave this background just like this. But I feel like I want it to be this may be one of my favorite backgrounds I've ever made, you guys. It looks lovely. All right, acrylic paint, we'll stick to a stencil. You gotta pop this in water when you get a chance. Okay, so now we have to let this dry, so I am gonna go plop my stencil in water. All right, now that it's dry, I am gonna leave it like this. I think this is a perfect neutral background that will be great for my art. I will probably cut this and put it in my book. And then this one also came out beautifully. It is different looking, but I also think it has a lot of cool texture, a lot of cool interest in the background, but that will not detract from the art I'm going to put on top of it. So that is the end of the neutral backgrounds. I'm going to do another video with colorful backgrounds that's going to be way fancy, because that one I have an idea for doing a different project on, so I'm going to make that super colorful. Hopefully that helps. Tara Jacobson, Artsy Fartsy Life.